Get strong.
All three of us are not just anime viewers and otakus. All three of us are gamers. So this particular topic of conversation is very interesting because we're going to talk about a video game adaptation. And similar to how we got the video game adaptation of the anime adaptation, of the video game The World Ends With You, and we covered it on the channel, Square Enix A1 Pictures are doing a anime adaptation of Nier Automata. Now, have you played Nier Automata, Jamie?
I've played a little bit of it, but unfortunately, I have not played the full game. So this is it's a weird cross between some familiarity and discovering a whole new thing. It's
Yeah.
kind of exciting.
I mean, to your defense, I haven't either. It's like this game has as many endings as the English alphabet. So even though some of them
So you're
are
trying to
good
say,
endings.
so what you're trying to say is that you've played it, but because it has so many endings, you really haven't finished it.
It depends on how you look at it. Yes,
Have you played it, Isaac?
I have played it, but I
Okay.
haven't finished every ending.
Okay. I just want to make sure because it sounded like you didn't play it, so I wasn't sure. So I've played the demo, which the demo is technically the entire first level. Because I believe this game is level based somewhat.
Somewhat.
I did pick up Nier Automata for PS4, and it's funny because there was this one day that I started looking at prices for the game, and around that same day I'm like tidying up in the house, and I found that I have it.
Oh,
That's how bad it is. Like I know I have it, but I haven't even touched it. But that's probably the next thing I'm gonna do because I just finished my first run. I think it's my sixth run of the game, but my first run on the remake version of The Last of Us Part 1. I just finished my first run, and I really loved it. Again, the remake is phenomenal. But I think I'm going to jump into Nier Automata while the show plays so I can get more information because it's very interesting. But yeah, anime adaptations of video game properties are not, it's not that they're scarce, but they're few and far between, especially those that appear to be of some good quality, right? And one of the things that we talked about when we talked about The World Ends With You is that was a very, very good adaptation, and the animation for it was very fitting to the world that they were depicting from the game. Now with Nier Automata, that's why I wanted to see if you guys have played it, because I think especially with the way this episode goes, which episode 1 is or not to be, which is a very particular way of writing the episode and a particular way of talking about what happens in the episode, right? But for those that have played the game, the first episode is the first level of the game,
Yeah, it's
which is very
by the looks of
particular
it,
and creative. Yeah.
I can add on that by the looks of it, it looks like they are going to, at least based on this first episode, going to mix the A route and the B route, because in the B route you get, for example, you see the scene where the machine is pouring down what looks like gasoline or something to the destroyed machine.
yeah.
That is specifically in the B route where you play as 9S kind of deal.
So the first thing, I'm glad that you mentioned that, Isaac, because the first thing that I find very peculiar about this anime adaptation, before we jump into the episode per se, is the ending of the episode, right? Because the credits occur while the episode's still going. I don't know if you
Mm-hmm.
guys noticed that.
Yeah, I
Um,
noticed.
the credits are rolling when they're showing the space station, and 2B is having that internal monologue, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then the post credit is literally, we got to assume it's one of the creators or showrunners of the show breaking the fourth wall and saying, "Hey guys, literally." So as you guys know, the Nier Automata game has multiple endings, but don't worry.
Mm-hmm.
As the show goes out, we're gonna be remaking these multiple endings in different fashions, and then it goes into another. It goes into puppetry and shows a 2B puppet and a 9S puppet, and they're explaining things. Now, in my understanding, are we led to believe that that scene is one of the endings of the game?
I haven't seen everyone, so I can't say that per se. But I know that you. What's his name again? Uh,
9S.
give me- no. I'm talking about the creator of
Oh, Yoko Taro.
Yokotara. He is a bit of a troll, and is involved with this. He has involvement with this anime adaptation, so I wouldn't be so shocked if he. It's his idea to do the whole goofy stuff with the dolls at the end of that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, but and I like the dimension that it adds to the actual show, because it's looking at anime watchers that are gamers in the face and telling them like, "Hey, you know there's multiple endings to this. We're not trying to tell you that one ending is better than the other, but we're letting you know that we acknowledge this from the get-go. We're going to show you the multiple endings, and I think we're going to be led to believe that the ending of this season or the ending of this show is simply going to be the one that they decided to portray." Which I find it very daring and very bold. Like from the get go. Like this is the type of reveal. Like if you, I don't know if you guys have seen She-Hulk. Have you guys seen
Mm-hmm.
She-Hulk?
Yep.
Like this is the kind of thing that you wait for the season finale of She-Hulk when she goes to meet Kevin. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you don't expect this in the first episode. Yes, Argwinder. Yes. 2B and 9S's puppets. The new Muppet. It is very bold. Yes. Yes, it is. Oh,
I love
Argwinder.
it.
What do you think about the boldness of doing that from the get go? Were you guys surprised by that? I was.
I think it's honestly like a pretty genius way to go about this, especially because, um everybody's going to have a different like favorite ending. So
Yeah.
not only just like having these endings put on display in what I believe are going to be future episodes. I think this time they were just goofing around. But to have these endings being displayed at the end in I don't know how they're gonna go about it without possibly doing spoiler stuff, but to discuss those while also making the main story for this season be a combination of those two endings, I think was really great. Just because if you've played the games, then there will still be something technically new for you to see since you have not seen a
Yes.
combination of the two.
Yeah.
And for people who are not familiar, you'll get to see like two different plots kind of like weave together which will I know it's definitely inspired me to pick up the game again and try and get through it and pick up some of these details um, and just like have the ability to explore like oh like this ending was great and there are more like let me see what these other options are. So I
Yeah.
definitely think they did a great job of like not trying to bore their audience and give them something new but also pleasing their current audience as well.
Yeah. Isaac.
One thing I have to mention, which is something I usually don't do, but it's the fact that they are using the music from the game, and I'm just
Yes.
L
Yes.
to the yes,
Yes.
because
Yes.
this music, the music for Nier. is some of the best video game soundtracks of all time, and no, that's
Yes.
not.
Very iconic.
Espe- Especially a specific song that I'm not going to mention here because Brandon hasn't uh, played the game, but you know X. I think you
Yet.
know X. You haven't played it yet, but Jamie know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that song. If you don't
Hmm.
have that song your anime adaptation, especially if you cover segment, then you're doing some very dumb decisions because that song is arguably the most iconic of the entire soundtrack.
I
Hey
think they'll
man.
pull through. I think they got
Yeah.
No,
it.
I was very surprised. I'm glad you mentioned music because, like I said, I've only played the demo. I've only played that level, and I could recognize that that's the music of Nier.
Hmm.
And I was blown away by how well it fits into everything that we see. I love how instantly I was taken to the game. I love the nice balance between CG and animation,
Yes.
and the action. I love that they literally animated specific scenes, like that scene of her standing and putting and swishing the blade in the middle of the air to the right. Like that particular
Hmm.
scene, I'm gonna try and look it up, but there's a particular scene. I think Isaac, you put it on the Shatter After as a GIF. So that particular scene of
The Shatter After, you mean the Amateur Otaku?
I don't know anything about life,
Yes,
but
we know that by now.
yes. So, but that particular picture was just great. I love the fact that they're I love they're acknowledging where it comes from, and they're not beating around the bush about it. I think that's what I'm enjoying about it the most, because now I can just focus. Because you know how when you go into something that you know is an adaptation of something that you know, right? A lot of times, sadly, the first thing that occurs is that you start thinking, okay, is it going to be as good as? You know what I mean? Like a lot of
Hmm.
times that's like the obligatory first thing that you ask yourself, and like you can't even help it. It's just a normal thing, right? So I do like the idea that as soon as we see this, as soon as we see it, we find we get all those references out of the way from the get-go. We're pleased to see them. So now we can focus on the conversations. We can focus on the interactions. Because a lot of the texting or the dialogue is not as prevalent in the game while you're playing and hacking and slashing, because it is a platinum game, so it is a hack and slash video game. That's like the
Hmm.
main action of the game. Apart from the resogun sections where, oh, by the way, the fact that the actual projectile bullets looked exactly the same as the game also blew me away. Did you guys notice that? Like the little red balls from the aerial enemies,
Yeah.
and the way they move, like everything literally feels exactly like the game. I was very surprised by that.
Yep. The trauma that I felt fighting the freaking giant saws, I felt that watching the show as well.
Damn. I'm
My, really? You want me to spit out my tea like that?
the end is
Uh,
near. Wow. Mike drops into the chat with the pun of all puns. All I have to say, Mike, is I'm disgusted and proud at the same time.
I expect nothing less.
So this is the pose. Like we literally get this in the anime. And I went like, wow, they're paying attention to everything.
Yep.
And I'm really happy about it. I'm really, really happy about it.
This could
Um,
be the year of video game adaptations, with this
say it.
and the Mario movie and
Say it.
It could be the year we finally get it right.
Say it for the
I
ones in the
mean,
back. Say it
I
for
mean,
the people in the back.
we have already have Castlevania, we have Arcane, we have had
Castlevania was
Sonic,
excellent.
we have
It's
Arcane, we
like
have Detective Pikachu, we have Sonic.
you're
I
right.
think it's so silly to say that the video game curse hasn't been fixed by
Well,
now.
It's
but
not
here's
that they haven't been good. It's like, we get a Sonic, then we get the freaking Halo show, and then we get something else, and it's like, it I want there to be more consistency, at least as far as being faithful to the material. That's
right.
where my main concern is. Like, I'm not saying, even though the Halo show was like pretty much not Halo, I didn't think it was a bad show. It just wasn't Halo. Similar to how some people feel about Cowboy Bebop. It wasn't necessarily a bad show. It just, the live action adaptation wasn't really Cowboy Bebop. So
I
I
like
just
you,
want that
Jamie. You
consistency.
speak truth.
I just want
Y-
the consistency.
yes,
That's my issue.
but and I'm glad that you say that because one of the things, a term that is often thrown out there in art is the idea of a renaissance, right?
Hmm.
And we don't need a renaissance in video game adaptations because we never really had a good one. Like we never had a good stretch of good ones.
Hmm.
We enjoyed the 90s ones when they came out because that's all we had. But so many different adaptations have shown us that a lot better is possible. And I know that I don't want to
Right.
say Marvel, but the Marvel Cinematic Universe has literally showed the world, whether you like it or not, it has shown the world that you can adapt properties like these in a way that's meaningful for the major audience.
Hmm.
Right? That's
Yep.
that's that's the biggest lesson that they've proven time and time again with almost every adaptation that they've had. And like it's funny enough because the Marvel movies that don't make money are the ones that upset fans, not necessarily people that love Marvel.
Right.
Which is again, it goes to show that they've made it very appealing. So I agree with you, Jamie, because we do want a consistency, and I think also to Isaac's point, because Isaac does have a point. I would say in the last I don't want to say decade. I'm going to say in the last 5 years, we've gotten a very healthy string of good adaptations.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we just want that to keep on going. And I know that the reason you're screaming to the people in the back, Jamie, is not just because of Nier, but also because of The Last of Us.
Right.
Because that I think that one, how that one plays out, how that particular video game imitation captures the imagination of people, big and small. That's really what's going to be that barometer. Does that
Right.
make sense? Of okay, we have to edge out a genre. We have to change the way we're doing things because there we have HBO showing us what's possible. So hopefully that's how we get there.
Yeah.
Now,
And I mean, just to quickly follow that up, like we have The Last of Us coming up this Sunday, and then they are like working on, or at least are in the like pre-production phases of creating that God of War show, of creating like a Horizon Forbidden West show.
yep.
So these things are definitely coming, but depending on the success of The Last of Us live action show, we could easily see these big Hollywood producers, or like people who are handling the money and deciding to fund these projects, decide, okay, you know what, like video game adaptations are doing pretty low, let's go for something more niche so we can really like target this specific audience, and maybe we'll get like I have no idea. You can name a whole number of different franchises, and get something that's like not just like mainstream, but like video games that are a little bit more niche, like Near Automata, and have it be created to such of a like great degree of detail like Nier has been so far, that will be really enjoyable for not just the gaming audience but general audiences as well.
I know
Yep.
that what's the car simulator game that's on PlayStation?
What
Gran
was that?
Turismo.
Gran Turismo has gotten its first trailer
Turismo.
for a week ago or so. I know.
That's right. I forgot about that one. Yeah, that one's coming too. We got a lot.
Yeah, so it's just about so hopefully, in Nier Automata, Argwinder says in the chat, the age of video game movies actually getting decent directors and writers has begun.
Yes.
Agreed, agreed. Now, I do want to say, in the case of Nier Automata, I think because of the failures of many adaptations, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that may be why they made the decision to mention the multiple ending shtick up front, so people know that they're taking a very specific direction with this. And also,
Mm-hmm.
I think they're screaming that in the name of the show, because the name of the show is not Nier Automata. The name of the show is Nier Automata version 1.1a, which, in my understanding, alludes to one of the endings or to one of the routes the story can go.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows? I even wonder now, are we just going to see version 1.1a for the entirety of the season? Maybe or do we get a change of version as the season progresses? Or do we get multiple seasons, each being a different version? So
That's an interesting question.
yeah, so I like how they're being ridiculously specific, not only to not necessarily to inform the anime audiences of what they're watching, but to address the gamer audience.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I find it very interesting and very particular. So I don't know. I'm liking all those things, and all this conversation about adaptation I think has been amazing.
Yeah.
So we talked about the music, um, the animation.
It's a
It's
mixed
good.
bag.
It's good.
I say mixed bag because you can, I can. Well, the 3D animation isn't Berserker 2016 or
Yeesh.
X Arms.
Oh, XR makes a comeback.
It reminds me to show you to the trailer after the recording.
Please don't.
But I will. You can't escape that. But I digress. But then again, I do want. It looks okay. It looks good enough for what to use the CGI for. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's not like it's
Right.
just a simple character models. It's a lot. They are using it for advanced movement of ships. They are
Right.
they do that when they have so many robots attacking them at the same time. I don't even think Mappa would have been able to do those in their perfect animation style, with that much on screen and all that advanced stuff going on. So the CGI, it works. It doesn't look horrible. The the 2D figures, like 2B and everything else, I think that looks extremely well. It
Mm-hmm.
certainly looks a lot better than the Persona 5 adaptation. That's for certain.
Well, you
Mm.
see, I'm gonna jump in here and say this. The problem with the Persona 5 adaptation wasn't the animation. It
To
was it,
in
it was
certain
the
aspect it
it was
was, but
it
no,
was
no,
mostly
it
the
wasn't the
direction and the
main.
pacing.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, like the scripts were not great.
And
To not say that they were not good, they were not great.
we need to cover that one now. Now that I mentioned it, haven't don't we?
Yes, I think we do.
Uh,
And now that I have the manga, we probably need to cover at some point too.
Mm.
Now, I think the thing with the animation, I get what you're saying with the mixed bag. And Jamie, you're an artist yourself, so I do want to hear your take.
Um. Oh. Were you want
No,
me to
no,
go
no.
now?
I'm gonna say something real quick, and I want to give you the floor.
Okay.
The thing with the animation, that I'm not gonna say, it's not that I didn't like it, because it has nothing to do with me liking it or not, is that I think that we've been spoiled for a complete season of anime
Mm,
with out of this world premium animation from Mappa, UFO Table, and Bones,
mm-hmm.
that this feels lacking. It doesn't feel like something that came out in 2023. It feels slightly outdated, but it still looks beautiful, and it's still very enjoyable. I kind of expected it to be a bit more closer to the level of, because one of the things, for example, that these studios have done with the inclusion of digital artwork is that they use it to create the scene and play with the lighting.
Mm-hmm.
And my eyes have become very um, accustomed to that type of beauty and range in animation in anime in the last year. That now that I see this and I don't see it, like now to be respectful though, it is all very, it is exceptionally well drawn, but
Mm-hmm.
I still felt that maybe I'm just ungrateful. Go, Jamie.
Why? There definitely have been some moments within this first episode where I was like, oh, okay, like, it's a little wonky, a little CG there. As far as the 2D animation goes, I don't think anything like immediately sticks out to me, or at least sticks out in my mind as like, oh wow, that looks a little bit um like off or outdated. I think that what they're doing is at least good enough to where it does not distract me from the story that they're trying to tell, which is like the most
Fair.
important thing for me. So I'm perfectly fine with what they're doing. If they decide to step it up, I there will be no complaints. But I definitely think that as far as the action is concerned, with some specific sequences, like just before I think like the chainsaw comes out, you see 2B fighting the robots. I thought that looked really good, and we saw like the GIF moment, as you were talking about, that was like really clean, and they really like nailed that, and was definitely a reference to Nier Automata,
Yeah.
as far as like transferring it from 3D to 2D. So I have no real issues with the animation so far, to be honest with you. And I think they're trying lots of different things, so it might take a moment for them to find their pacing. Like they even had like freaking puppets in here, man. So they're really they're going out there, and you're not going to hit every ball that you swing at, but if you swing hard, you're gonna have a lot of home runs. So
Yeah.
I'm waiting for that.
So I'm glad you mentioned that, and because I think, like I said, I think I was so wowed with everything that came out in the previous season that part of me wanted to be wowed.
Mm,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
And I think maybe I just set up myself for that disappointment, because you're right, the animation works, and it's pretty damn great. And Arcwinder in the chat mentioned something that's true, and you mentioned it too, Jamie. That the CGI, it's not perfect, but it's a lot better than what we've seen other people do.
Mm-hmm.
And trust me, I've seen shows that literally reuse bad CGI for whatever reason. So, Arcwinder says in the chat, honestly, Nier and Chainsaw Man have a better use of CGI than more anime that use it. To be honest, I hardly notice it when I watch the shows. Yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, the action is solid. The animation is solid. I was very surprised how they literally went pen by numbers on that first level, because you
Mm-hmm.
rarely see adaptations do that, which I think which is why I also found it very surprising, right? Because most adaptations try to go out of their way so that you know that it's not that it's so that you stop thinking about it as an adaptation.
Mm-hmm.
This one went out of their way to make sure that you knew that it was,
Yeah.
especially with the ending with the puppets, right? Um, as characters, what are your thoughts? What are you guys' thoughts on 2B? Because definitely 2B is being presented as the protagonist, which she is mainly the protagonist of the game. I know there's other characters that you play as, but I know that she's front and center. And at least of the story that we're going to start following, I would assume they place her as the protagonist. Um, what are your guys' thoughts of this character?
I really like her a lot. I with my short time with 2B, I really like grew to like her, and like she was very quick to warm up to 9S, both in the game and in the anime. So it was cool to see like a little, I guess, a chink in her armor, and we see a little bit of humanity kind of like break out of that android shell. That was also cool to see 9S being kind of like this giddy, like I
Yeah.
guess it almost feels like, you know, that spy scenario where it's like the guy that's always chained to the desk. He finally gets to go out
Yes.
into the field and have some
Yes.
fun.
Yes.
And in some ways he does have that fun, and he's like, oh man, like this is great. Like I finally get to connect with another person. But he also gets to realize like the dangers of what it is to go out on the field and see that
Yes.
sometimes the trade-offs might not exactly be worth it.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to see both of them kind of like build that relationship, and then ultimately like it ends up being reset I guess by the end of the episode, because he's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't remember any of that, but I look forward to working with you in the future. And she's like, oh, all right, cool.
So, um, before I jump into that, Isaac, your thoughts?
About the character of 2B and INS, or specifically 2B.
No, but you can talk about both characters, just like Jamie did. Yeah.
I mean, it's. I think, without going into the whole spoiler thing, I think they were really solid in keeping the whole. How should I put it? Introduce their upcoming dynamic throughout the show, and making it so that he is making it, having 9S being the more, oh, I want to explore, I want to know more, whereas 2B is the honorable and know as you uh, want to do the job properly, uh, soldier that have something that she has to hide for reasons she can't talk about, kind of deal.
Yeah. Like she's trying to hide her whole thing. She's like, I like how she's trying to act tough and mission oriented and not get attached. It says a lot about her character, especially with the inner monologue that you see at the beginning. Arkwinder says in the chat, "I'm betting Isaac mentions 2B's thighs." Oh my god! Actually, it was you, Arkwinder. You mentioned it. um, and he's mentioning about the animation. Arkwinder says, "Personally, I think they're just settling OG fans in before they do some crazy." Yeah, yeah,
It's when it comes to the show, I just feel that, how should I put it? I think it's just the whole scene where she says only 2B is enough. You don't have to call me Miss. Is just a big enough of a hint that there is something more that meets the eye there than
well,
with them, and especially when she also runs to meet to find him after at the end of the episode.
right.
And also,
Hmm.
going back to the whole thing, yes, I have played this that before, but I think their whole sacrifice with a black box that you used to take out that big threat. The what are you calling again?
The
The Goliath class weapon.
Thank
Ooh.
you. Them
We're gonna use you for all the announcements now, Jamie. That was perfect. The Goliath class weapon. That was awesome.
Full Metal Alchemist.
the in fact, the whole scene of them sacrificing, quote unquote, sacrificing themselves, or should I say, sacrificing their bodies, considering their minds are uploaded into the net, kind of deal. It's
So,
it's a touching scene, and you can feel the camaraderie even though you haven't been with them for that
Mm-hmm.
long of a time.
Yeah. It's definitely one of those stories that, first off, you really don't have a lot of dialogue. All you have is like mission log stuff. And like whenever 9S tries to have dialogue, like in a way, 2B is always shutting him down. But in the
Mm-hmm.
little interaction but the constant interaction, little bits here and there, a little bits here and there is a lot of humanity and sense of want from these characters that I think is what draws you in, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to 2B's character, that I find so fascinating is it's the immortality problem, which I find so interesting. Which is, for example, a lot of people dream of a world with where they will never die
Mm-hmm.
until they figure out that they have to feel everything that one feels when they live. So you have to live with loss forever. You have to live with, you know what I mean? Like there's no end to the loss and pain that you're going to feel because you've decided to live forever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or the opposite, like in God of War. Spoilers for God of War 2018. But if you're one of the millions of people that have played it and played Ragnarok, it's not a spoiler. Like the whole thing with Baldur, where he's desperate to feel something,
Mm-hmm.
and then at the end of then what the last thing he feels is what kills him. Like so I find it interesting that because she's an android, because her information can be saved and rebooted in a new body, she has been dying in unlimited number of ways, in unlimited number of times, but she's still feeling the loss and pain of every single time she's been rebooted, which I find that to be a very tragic presentation for a character. Because by the end of the episode, we don't know how many times he's gone through this. And and I love how that idea informs her not trying to connect with 9S in a way. You know what I mean? Like keep unnecessary conversations from happening and stuff like that. But then of course, as they find themselves in the heat of the battle, it's there. But then you find out, because that's kind of what the ending of the episode alludes to, right? Is that it looks like they both have died multiple times, but she always remembers when they've both died. He never does.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you remember, I watched the episode twice to make sure that I got us most out of it. 9S only uploaded her info. He never uploaded his,
Mm-hmm.
which is why she's like suffering, and that's why when she's running, she's like, all I want is his happiness. And then you're led to the idea of, okay, these androids are fighting for humanity, but there's no humans. I don't know, it's super weird, super interesting, and I'm liking it.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting because I also watched it for this. Well, I watched it for the second time today, just because there are definitely things that I did not pick up on the first viewing, and just like the whole story about like these machines, kind of like, I guess, carrying on where humans left off without, their presence, I guess, to tell them what to do next. And even there's a scene where 2B talks, or I think 9S talks about machines that are continuing to do the tasks that they were given when they were first made, even though it's pointless to do it and like nobody's benefiting from it.
Yeah,
It's interesting to hear about these things, and interesting to see that we'll be like exploring more of this,
yeah,
and like what the where these Goliath class weapons are coming from. Why is that a thing? Are the robots, and then the robots that are just standing around? They've created a lot of like interesting places for us to go this
Yeah.
season. And I'm like kind of scared. I'm like, do we have enough episodes to go through this, or is this just like guaranteed season 2? I don't know.
And but also what I like about it is because the Nier property itself has always been known for its deep conversation and in challenging intellectual conversations, right? And one of the things that I find interesting is that because the game is designed for replayability, certain things are not revealed until you replay. Certain things are not revealed. Some important information is not revealed until you replay it. So again, that's a space for new seasons, but also I wonder what the twist is going to be, because if you go back to that one scene of the the little robot with the bucket of oil walking to the robot that's broken, and he throws oil on it, that's literally alluding to the idea that these machines are developing, even though they look antiquated and they look like machines, because that's also the weird twist of it, right? Like we are told that 9S and 2B are androids, but they look human, right? And then you have all these little machines that literally look like little robots, but they're all in a way, what's the word I'm looking for? They're expressing evidence of human emotion, or things that, or they're doing things that humans would do. Like when they talk about the Goliath machine, the Goliath, like the one thing that 2B says is, what's going on? He is speaking words. He's thinking, like is thinking from itself, you know? So it's like, and so I know I wonder if there's going to be a twist there, like the original Nier game. Did any of you guys ever play the original Nier?
I have not actually. I played a bit of the app. I think it's Near Replicant.
No, Replicant was I think Nier Replicant is the re-released version of the first one.
I still got it on my iPad. Let me see.
I think it's Nier
Near
Reincarnate.
Reincarnation.
Right.
Yeah, that's
right.
what it is.
So the whole thing about Nier that's very interesting, with the whole thing about replayability also, is that in the original Nier, you're in this world with magic and stuff like that, and I think you're trying to save someone that you love, and you're fighting all these monsters or spirits of darkness, right? When you replay the game and you're fighting these spirits of darkness, they're actually human souls that are protecting something. So now who's the bad guy? It's really, I think it's something like that. I haven't played the game, but I've seen so many videos that talk about it, and I find it super interesting. I wonder if there's going to be some type of twist here, because it's meant to be that twisty the thinkers game. You know what I mean? Which I find super interesting. Again, it's a hack and slash, but still it has all these layers. That I don't know. Just like you said, Jamie, they've set up so much for them to go to any direction, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. I don't know. I think we've done the thing, guys. Isaac, do you have anything else on Nier Automata? Arkwinder says in the chat, seeing how humans are gone and no one can really control the bots, it makes sense they would exchange. It makes sense they would eventually develop some intelligence. Yep. Isaac, anything else on Nier Automata?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay. Jamie?
No, I think that's it. I really enjoyed the first episode. Can't wait to see the next one.
Guys, we've done the thing. We've talked Nier Automata. If you love what we do here in the Amateur Otaku channel, make sure you click on that like button, click on that bell for notifications, and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss any episodes, any coverages on Nier Automata, Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything. If you want to listen to us on the go, you can always go to the podcast channel. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever podcasts are found. You can find the Amateur Otaku and this awesome coverage. Isaac, if people wanted to find you, where can they find you?
Written work, Wobam Entertainment, Twitter, Emblemaniac.
Jamie, where can people find you and your stuff?
You guys can find me here on YouTube at swiper-art and at swiper_prime for all gaming related stuff, and that works on Twitch as well.
And you can find me at the Scarlet Fan 52 on Twitter, and you can find me on the Chatter After podcast talking movies, books, games, whatever other medium that we want to cover. The Last of Us, which we mentioned here, HBO's The Last of Us, is an awesome show that's debuted on HBO, and we have created a special series on The Last of Us on the Chatter After podcast. It's called Beyond the Clickers, and we are doing it live every Tuesday, and we're covering every single episode of The Last of Us. So come join us as we seek the chatter beyond the clickers. You can find us there, you can find me there, and you can find the pod on Twitter at the Amateur Otaku Pod. Join us. Let's talk anime. Let's talk manga. And let's spoil ourselves of everything awesome that's out there. We will see you next time, guys. Have it awesome. Stay awesome. Peace.
Peace.
If